have a hot take.
A student needs to be like the focal point.
I'm gonna get threats from faculty members. Oh, was that the podcast? Did you start the podcast?
Wow, this is good.
I know, right?
Pretty.
So what are we drinking, Dan?
No, well,
You picked the beer.
No free ads here.
No free ads. No free ads.
But this is like it's like a citrusy wheat beer.
Which honestly, like, isn't my go-to, but well done.
Yeah.
We let Dan pick the beer for once, guys, and he came back with a citrusy. It honestly, it tastes a little bit like if like Blue Moon had lemonade in it instead of orange.
Apt analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still maybe just because the can is orange.
Like an Arnold Palmer, but with.
I feel like that makes it sound bad. Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, what are we talking about? What do you guys want to brainstorm? We have zero plan. Shane, any ideas? It's
My
Dan's turn? Oh, Dan's turn.
We could do just the core of all marketing is getting people's information. That's
Getting people's information.
that is the core of all marketing, right?
Don't look at
I mean,
me.
well, that's the and then you do something.
I would say it's a foundational element
there we
of
go.
like personalized marketing, right? Which is everyone's interested in figuring out how to better personalize their marketing communications. So wait, what do you mean? Like what, like how to get an email address or how to get someone's phone number?
Yeah, or I guess that's about it. Name maybe. That'd be useful, hopefully.
Okay, this is interesting. Any ideas riffing off of this, Shane? Any?
I mean, how are we getting the name? Are we going into like what we're doing with it, or are we just going to talk about like?
I don't. This is just an idea.
Think landing page. Like you get to a landing page, you see an ad, you get an email from, it might even be a known brand. Like what? If we talk about like what on a landing page, or start there, it'll evolve. What on a landing page would make you give your information? Like a selling point.
Sure.
If they were just like, give us your information, period. Here's the form. You would never do it.
Yeah.
What would make you actually like, oh, I want whatever it is that they're offering. That's a free thing that you know you're also going to get marketed to after. It's not like I'm filling out a purchase for a thing.
So like, what's the creative? What's the copy? What are the things that would convince you to be excited about giving away your email address or your phone number?
Yeah.
First of all, actually, before we start, how do you feel like email address versus phone number? Do you feel differently about giving that away? And if so, what is that difference?
I think I would give my email away pretty easily.
Your like spam email or like your real email?
My Gmail.
Your Gmail? Okay.
Do you guys have spam emails?
I do. You don't have a spam email?
No.
Really?
No, I just
missing out.
unsubscribe all the time to everything.
I feel like Gmail's also gotten better.
They have,
filtering a lot of those things
yeah.
too. So I
annoying,
got
actually.
less.
Yeah.
I would never, unless it's like for a work-related thing, never give out my work email.
Yeah.
But if it was for like a regular like ebook type thing, infographic, access to some report, whatever, I think I would give my Gmail.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And then if I really had no interest in what they were offering, I would unsubscribe in 2 seconds. But
I've gotten to a point where my inbox is so overrun that the idea of trying to figure out how to unsubscribe from everything is too overwhelming, that I've actually started seriously considering just like starting a new email.
Oh wow.
And like setting up an auto reply of like, this email is bankrupt. It's just there's so much spam. I have like 3,400 unread emails and I keep trying to catch up and I just can't. I'm subscribed to too many random.
So I went through a huge like spring cleaning and it took me weeks to do, but if you can search like at, let's say, at directdevelopment.com and put that in the search, and so everything like that ends in that will show up, and then you just delete all of it.
Yeah. But then you have to remember the brands that are sending you the emails.
Well, it's just the ones that have sent you something in the last week, because those are the ones that are the problem, you know?
There you go. Okay. That's
done a lot of.
You know what's funny?
I know how to delete stuff out of my emails so quickly.
I'm pretty sure Corinne Myers
Especially your
brought this up on Twitter like a week ago.
Really?
About
She
what?
was trying to mass unsubscribe from things.
Yeah.
I think I saw it pretty early, and nobody had commented anything. So I don't know what else is out there.
I'm surprised there's not a service yet.
There has to be.
There is.
gotta
There
be.
must be. There must be. Yeah.
But they might. Who knows how good they are? But
But my whole thing is that trying to figure out exactly like what brands I really want to unsubscribe from. Like, I don't even, I guarantee like half of the emails I get are from people that have sold my information to other people. Meaning I legitimately have no, I don't recognize the brand at all. But sorting through the things that I want versus the things that I don't want is just so freaking overwhelming. And it's easy to like my promotions tab is just insane in Gmail. But like the inbox is still just so overrun. Anyways, we should get back to the topic. So, all right. What would convince you to give up an email address and or your phone number? Like, what are the elements of the perfect conversion point? In essence, is what we're talking about.
I think if we start strictly talking about just the form itself. Okay. First name, last name, email, phone number. Has to be it. Anything beyond that is like, you're asking me to do too much work. Again, depending on the value of the thing. But like, for any old normal thing that I'm like somewhat interested in, it's not like you're reinventing the wheel here. I think those are core. I think in the phone number option, like some type of checkbox of like call, text, or neither, which I've actually seen more of people saying like, give us your phone number, but you can opt out of anything. I'm confused why they would do that. Maybe they just email you later saying, have you changed your mind? Or they just sell it to somebody else. But, and if I can select text only, I actually don't mind that as much.
Texting,
versus like if you call me, if anyone calls me and I don't have the number, I don't pick up. But yeah, I think a text only option is attractive. Again, as far as email, I feel like I'm pretty.
That makes sense.
What are the things, like what, if anything, have either of you downloaded in the past like 2 or 3 months where you've given your information in order to access?
A great question. I don't know if I actually have done too much.
Hub search.
The hub search, that's what I was thinking.
Salary report.
I
think it was. That was when I gave my work email for that one. So I was like, this is work related. I want it.
And that was because like it was a salary guide of people that work in and around HubSpot's CRM basically, and it's essentially a niche salary and insights report.
Yeah, it is, but it's also a little more vague too, in that like it has, content writers with various levels of experience, what they could be paid. Like there are some specifics to HubSpot, and that's kind of the nature of their work. But it's also like, all right, it's probably generally applicable to the public as far as any content writer goes. So yeah, I feel like that was one where I gave my information and felt like that was worth giving my information for. I think other ones like deals and offers for select companies that I know I already like though, like Adidas, I'll do it for.
So if there's already brand affinity, you're more likely to opt into some campaign that they're doing.
Or I just know it's a brand that's not gonna like, one of the things I actually avoided, the Motley Fool. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Dude, I get so many emails from them.
I was reading reviews.
So many emails.
You sign up, you get anywhere from 3 to 4 emails a day. And it's basically just them trying to sell you more stuff.
Wow. I don't know how they make it into my damn primary inbox. Their email marketers are insane. Like they're incredible. I mean, annoying as all get out, but like these people know how to do email marketing well. Like they are constant, and I don't engage with their emails. It's you can't engage with all of them. But anyways, they're a lot. But I did also download a report from them at some point, which is how I got on their list.
I'm curious, what was the actual report, like the salary report? Like, was it like a website or like an ebook or?
It was
like
just a PDF.
Just a PDF. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was long. And I think I had actually downloaded one. They do it every year, and I downloaded one before, so I also knew what to expect. So I downloaded it again this year. It's just like updated information, but just a PDF ebook.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like most of the time when I'm downloading something, it's like, I mean, obviously for me, video stuff, and like a lot of times people will have like free packs of I don't know, just assets and whatnot that could be useful in the future. But usually those are, I think every time I've done those, it's purely like you just put your email address in. But obviously it's like, you're getting just like actual things that you'd normally have to pay for. So it's,
Do you feel like So is it stuff on the landing page and the way they're describing it that you're like, oh, that's cool, I want access to those things?
Yeah.
Does it come by email because you've already interacted with this company? Like,
usually if it's like, maybe I'll just be on the website and then they'll like have a little thing and like, it's just a way to, I usually download it because you don't know what could be useful in there and whatnot. Yeah. But usually it's just, I think, maybe a banner on a website like, oh, download this free pack. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't hurt. I can delete it if I don't want it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was realizing, like as I was in the process of doing it a couple weeks ago is, and then I realized I've done this several times, when some sort of like resource, whether it's like a salary report or any sort of like comprehensive marketing study, I'll like look at that, stuff, or like when Ahrefs or SEMrush might release something, I'll go and download that. And one of the things I realized though is like, I have this is not that like incredible of an insight, but like if I click on somebody's organic social post about a premium guide or a premium offer, like there is a strong likelihood that I will go and download that offer as opposed to seeing an ad, then clicking from the ad to the landing page. Mm-hmm. And I don't even necessarily have to know this person super well, but if I'm just following them or connected to them on LinkedIn or on Twitter in some capacity, the likelihood that I'll go and actually click through and convert on the offer is significantly higher. Yeah. And I guess that's just because there's some element of like social proof that if Dan is sharing it and I know Dan and I like Dan's content, even if I don't know him super, super well, there's a higher likelihood that it's good, and therefore I download it.
I feel like the copy that goes with it too, like I feel like a lot of times some of these people that just like push out stuff all the time, it's just the title of the thing with the card that says the title of the thing again. I'm like, there's no way they didn't put any time and energy into this. No. There's no way it's any good, and I won't even click to it. But then the ones that's like a little bit more like somebody somebody who looks like they know what they're talking about. I also hover over profile icons to see like
how many followers or like what they're if they're verified.
And then, looking at like likes and retweets or whatever, and like, all right, this is pretty credible. If enough people have engaged with it, I think that's a good sign. Like, all right, it's probably good enough. But I feel like there are people too that just throw out content left and right.
Like, interesting. Is there like a kind of content that you all tend to like gravitate towards when it's like, let's say either downloading like an ebook, or is it more of like not a PDF, like a gated content where you can only like get so far down the page? Like, is there a kind of, is one of those like more likely to say get you to go into it? Because my initial reaction would be that maybe the gated content, because you see part of it and then you can't see the rest. However, at the same time, I feel like I've also jumped off of a lot of gated content. It's like they're just trying to get my information. This is gimmicky and stupid, and like what's probably underneath the like hidden bit is like not actually useful.
I think, so my quick note on the like preview content and then like fill out your form to finish the story or keep reading or not, is that the content that isn't hidden has to be like effing amazing and like so compelling and so well written that like I cannot help myself, but I have to finish the story, right? I have to know what's on the other side. 9 times out of 10, or like 99% of the time, it's like the content is not that compelling or it's interesting, and it's almost like this like it's basically like they just took the story and cut off, showed you the first 15% and then didn't give it a second thought. Like in other words, they're not thinking about the asset as a lead gen asset. They're just saying like, here's the story, and if you want to keep reading, fill out your email. I think if you do that, that's not necessarily a bad tactic, but you need to think about that first 10-15% of copy that you're showing as like, the only purpose of these words is to get people to frickin' fill out that email, that field, right?
Right.
I think that could be hard to do on like a page with just words though, whereas I feel like some of the ones that I've actually converted on were a little bit more like infographic-y, where it's more maybe story driven, where it's like, all right, how does this end up? Like, how does it go? And thinking like, I feel like, I don't know, I'm thinking of a dumb example, but one of the ones I was looking at the other day, it's like if you invest, this much into your 401k starting at age 25, and then increase that percentage in line with your salary. Here's what this means by 30, 35, 40. And it's like, whoa. And it's like, and then you buy a house, and it like knocks down the price as well. And so it's like, all right, I need to see like how this ends up. And it's just like a curiosity thing. And you also, I think the big thing, because you never know what's behind the gated content, is having a reasonable sense of what it's likely going to be, and still realizing that's probably going to be valuable to me. That way it's like, rather than like I read, and I think there could be a tendency to like front load all the really good information that's actually free, so that they'll convert, and that's just all the fluff down there. But it's like, well, we already got your email. Whereas like, I think that maybe that story methodology might work a little bit better, where you're like, a person feels invested, and so like now they're going to convert, rather than just like, oh, okay, I was reading about so-and-so, and like, I don't care enough.
That's the same sort of psychology as to why so many TV shows let you watch the pilot episode or the first couple episodes for free, right, before you have to start your subscription, because they are hoping that you'll be hooked. But to answer your question too, just about like the type of content, I have found, and I feel like I used to just, anything that seemed like it could be remotely valuable, I would download. And then this was probably like 8 years ago. Now it's like, everyone's doing inbound marketing. Everyone understands the value of content as a key gateway to lead gen. And so I've become much more skeptical of like what I download. But what I find myself doing a lot of is, if I find something that's gated, immediately I will try to go find that information for free elsewhere. And then if I can't find it in as succinct of a format, or if it doesn't look like it's quite what I'm looking for, I'll go back and download the gated content. So I won't just immediately, like I just did this the other day. I was like trying to figure out how to like edit like this podcast, right? And I was trying to figure out how do I use Audacity, which is this like free podcast editing software, right? And so I Googled, how do I use Audacity, right? And I found this course, and it was going to cost me $99, and it looked pretty comprehensive. I was like, I'm not that invested. I really want to figure out just how to splice in like an intro song before the podcast, right? And so then I went to YouTube and watched 3 videos, and then figured that thing out without needing to go to the gated content. But then once I figured that out, I had like, it'd be really cool to understand levels a little bit more. Like, and of course, like that content isn't as discoverable on YouTube. And so anyways, it's interesting, I think, for our audience to think about like, people might view your gated content as, people might stop on that page, go try to find that answer elsewhere, and if they can't, they'll come back. And so all this is, I guess, a long way of saying that anything that is gated, it really should be valuable and or unique enough to your domain or your institution or your area of expertise. Not that it can't be found anywhere else for free, but it can't be found somewhere else for free in like an easy way. And I think that's the magic, if you can find that and overlap. The really hard part too is you need to express enough what is in the guide and how it's better than anything you might find for free. Like, okay, you might be able to find something for free, but you're looking for salary information, career trajectory things, where an industry's at, whatever, and everything that's free and out there is from 2020. And people might be like, how different can it be? It's only 2022. And you have, 2022 data or insight or whatever it is. And so how specific do you need to get on your landing page to tell people this is better? Like, you almost need to know what the free stuff is so that you can position your stuff better on a landing page to be like, all right, yes, but also these other things, and we have that type of stuff.
That makes sense.
And I think that's a hard thing to do, again, particularly for, maybe let's take like a lengthier ebook where you cover so many things. It's like, you can't just have a running bulleted list of 35 things that you cover. So what are really probably the most common challenges, headlines or headers that people are going to read and be attracted to, and then how do you leverage that on your landing page to draw in those form submissions?
On that note, sorry, were you going to say something?
No.
On that note, I think about like a lot of the more progressive like schools that understand the importance of content and inbound and like earned attention and earned lead acquisition, like have like these robust like salary guides or like, you know, field specific information around like the future of cybersecurity or the future of business analytics, whatever it might be. And a lot of those resources contain salary information like you're talking about. I find though that like if I was a prospective student and I was seriously considering your program, especially at the graduate level, but even at the undergraduate level, I don't want general like information about like, generally speaking, the national average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, suggests that if you work in cybersecurity, you will get $69,000 a year after, you know, if you have a master's of science in cybersecurity. I want to know your students, the people that have taken your program over the last 3 to 5 years, what are their average salaries after program completion? And like, this shouldn't be that hard for schools to figure out. It's a survey to your alumni after they complete your program. And then if I knew that like, you know, this school had data that they were sharing with me about their specific students, again, just averages, even just a range. The likelihood of me downloading that information incredibly high if I'm even remotely interested in the program.
Because that obviously has zero competition. Like nobody else is going to make an article about how much
there's no free blog post about this.
Even thinking too where they're working. Like the salary is one thing, but two, I mean, if you're pursuing a master's degree, one could say maybe you're more motivated than the average person, and so you're probably thinking like, you know, that average salary, I should be above that, or I can like quickly grow in a company because I know I'm a really hard worker. I pick up on things quick, you know, whatever it might be. If I could get in the door at this place, I could crush it. They would love me. I could move up quicker. The salary isn't even really super important to me at this point in time. Like, I think I can go up 2-3 levels in a pretty short period of time. And being able to see where you can do that versus like, you know, people are going to smaller companies and you're maybe making a lot, but it's like, it sounds like a lot for year one, but then it's consistent like 1, 2, 3% raises, and you're like really not going anywhere, or you're just like cogging the machine. Versus, you know, cooler companies doing innovative things. Also looking at, I think that also then links you up with like connections after with alumni of like, you know, this person worked here, you guys were in the same program, this, that, and that. I think that just like one thing leads to the next, you know, beyond just that basic salary information.
Do you think that there's like, because thinking about those kind of things, I assume that probably takes a lot of time to like aggregate that information. You have to like follow up with people that, like, you can't just like, oh, let's like put together this thing because we need like more people for marketing and whatnot. I wonder what kind of best bang for your buck as far as time goes is the best kind of content to like quickly put out there. Like, is it some kind of like, you know, just quick like infographic thing that's like maybe a more simpler kind of information, or like even in the realm of like, is something like a video because it's more entertainment, like you know, maybe that's something that, you know, might be a simple way to just like get people to put an email in quickly, or you know, I mean, maybe it is just those big kind of like really rich pieces of information are what require it, but I'm wondering of like what other kind of pieces of content that don't quite require as much time.
I feel like you use the form versus not the form. So maybe you have like an infographic for some of that, like here are industry averages, here's what, you know, graduates of this school are making. If you're making that graphic, it better be more. Right, and then you're using like maybe you have behind a form or behind one of those like, you know, gated pages part of the way through, you have top 10 alumni from this program, where they're at, you know, what they were making right out of college. I feel like it would probably, you're not going to get too many people to be like, use my name, face, current position, and salary. But like where they went right out of college and like some quick profile information. You give 1 or 2 cool people, you have 8 more after that. If people really are interested, they can download that type of thing. And then if you want more of like a career report, trajectory, all these other things, that's like an in-depth PDF ebook that you have to then go download. That way it's like, it's a mixed bag of things, because you never know what somebody else has already known, seen, heard, whatever, or what type of content they like to consume. Like, you know, in an ideal world, would you make an infographic, gated page, ebook, video, all the things? can most schools do that? Not quickly. Not quickly enough for all their programs,
Sure.
at least. And so,
but I mean, if you are putting together something like a big report like that, and you obviously have rich information, then you'd probably want to use that as much as possible, and because then you're not having to let's say you have to make a video and an infographic anyway, like at least you have some very rich data that you already know is useful to people, that is going to be like a good topic for that other content.
Yeah, I also think that like I was thinking about, have you guys, your last point, Shane, reminded me of these TikToks that I've been seeing of like these guys and like girls that'll go around, I don't even remember what the account is, but they'll just like ask random people on the street like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a videographer. And what do you make? Where do you live? Right? And people are revealing their actual salaries. It's like, I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm a videographer, and I make, $65,000 a year, whatever it is. Like, and it's like incredibly transparent. They're getting the geo in there, right? They're getting what they actually do, right? And I don't think that they talk about the company that they work for. Or actually, maybe some of them do.
I don't know if they talk about the company.
But like, it's bringing this like whole. Oh, Dan.
No, we're good.
Oh, gosh, we thought we lost Dan's audio again, guys. But like, you're getting this like really interesting data and insight, and you're on TikTok and you're scrolling and you're getting this for free. And I'm thinking about like the things that I have learned that like normally like would have been gated, that are just like free on TikTok that you can, and the same things like on Twitter. People talk a lot about like Twitter's like the best free university and whatnot, and you might have strong opinions otherwise for good reasons, but like I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the quality of free information has gone up dramatically. And to a point where people are willing to show you how to make frickin' sourdough. They're willing to tell you how much they actually make, and all of it is totally free. So if you're gonna gate something, it sure as hell better be super valuable and niche around something that really only you are qualified, or a few folks are qualified to talk about. And I think as a general framework, that's just a helpful way to operate. I think a lot of times, when schools complain about, oh wow, like we got all these leads from a Facebook lead ad campaign or an Instagram campaign, and then like only 2% of them did anything after coming in off of that ad campaign. And I think one of the questions to ask is like, well, remember, in a world where you can get a lot, where your savviest consumers can find a lot of information for free without going through a form, maybe you're attracting people that are not as savvy and or are not as qualified, quite frankly, for your programs, because they are willing to give you their information.
Right, and that's where I feel like you get the bits and pieces, but somebody who has more than one question, if you're the aggregator of a lot of those things, you position yourself nicely to then capture people's information, because it's like, all right, you don't have to randomly go find this TikTok. If you don't know that exists, like that might be a hard thing to find. If you don't know that, this company, whatever, put together a salary report, that might be hard to find. Like, you can Google things. That doesn't mean it's going to be in perfect alignment with what you're searching. And so going back to kind of the impetus of the conversation and the topic, like, what can you put on your page that's when you download it, you will get these 5 things, and those are the 5 things that, yes, you could find one of these on TikTok, you could find one of these on Twitter, but you have to bounce around and
this is going to save you time.
Just give us your email. And again, the convenience factor of give us your email for the convenience factor. We'll give you all this information. And I think too, link to those things. Like when you're creating your content, link to, I don't think it's, who cares if they go click to a TikTok to learn more about this salary information, and then if they click to this thing to find this other stuff, like, you've already gotten their information. Be a helpful resource, and then if you're not just going to convince somebody out of nowhere to start an application.
But so, and I think that is so true. And the big point is, like, we used to tell schools to do this all the time. We used to tell schools, hey, take 90% of what's on your program page, copy and paste it into a PDF, add 10% of additional information, and gate it, right? And I think that that still works in terms of like a lead, in terms of lead gen. But I think the quality of those people, or the reason why like there isn't why you're not seeing like meaningful follow-up or meaningful engagement post that initial conversion is actually because you didn't create anything that was truly unique or truly valuable, or the value wasn't great enough. And I think that's probably just the hard reality. Like I think about content, like I have converted on content, like the Hub Search guide that you were talking about earlier. I emailed the creator, like Hub Search themselves, whoever wrote, I don't even remember who's like the author of the guide, but I emailed them and their CEO, and I like asked a couple of specific questions and I thanked them for the resource. I was intrigued enough by what they presented to proactively follow up. And I'm sure that I'm like in the minority here, but like if I've done that when I found content to be particularly interesting or compelling and I've actually read it, I do follow up because I do have further questions. And I think anyone that does actually read something that is good and they are also interested in your services or your products or your programs, you should compel them to follow up, right? And I think if you're not getting that, if there's just total drop off of engagement, it's because you gave them something that wasn't that particularly valuable or helpful, and that's why conversion rates are, post guide download are so freaking low.
Yeah.
So I think like at least a big takeaway is like when it comes to gated content, it's got to be niche. It's got to be incredibly valuable, something that like you have a unique spin on or a unique perspective on or a unique insight into. And it's got to be something that is comprehensive enough where it would take a prospective student far too long to go get all of these answers elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, even following up with everybody individually, obviously within reason, that downloads the guide, like they download the guide for a reason, right? So there are people like you who are weird and will email them and be like, I have all these follow-up questions. I would say it's a dime a dozen.
But what I would say, it's a dime a dozen. Like I am interested in Hub Search's like services, right? I would consider them as a talent search agency, right? Like, and so there's already that. I would say I am an inquiry, right? I'm at the inquiry stage. I'm considering applying, right? So, and I think that the point of a lot of these content resources is that the goal is to inspire these inquiries, is to qualify them and then inspire a subset of them to actually start an application.
Yeah. But I'm saying everybody else who fills out the form is only a few steps behind you.
Sure.
They're not miles behind where it's like, don't even bother emailing them. They're just going to blow you off.
Totally.
I think if there are 100 and you email all of them individually, if you were to get 5, well, what if those 5 start an application to become enrolled students? Like, that was worth your time. And it's not like the emails are wildly different for each person where you're rewriting them. Like, copy, paste, swap a couple things, but send them a personal email that I think goes a lot further than an automated, where everyone knows it's automated. Again, here's another link to your report. And it's like, I know, I'm viewing it right now. Like, delete, see ya. Where you've lost that person versus the personal follow-up that, again, comes even 2 days later. Like, it doesn't need to be instant. You have the time. Like, hey, thanks for downloading this guide, Zach. Let me know if you have any questions about, how we got this data, did this thing, whatever, about our, services in particular. I'd be happy to chat. Otherwise, enjoy the resource. And it's like, not pushy, it's whatever. It's like kind of friendly. And then I think that's a little bit more for the people that wouldn't just send the email right after. It's a little bit more of a like warm welcome that you'd be like, all right, I'll email you a couple things. It sounds like this is, rather than emailing an automated email. I always feel like an idiot every time I do that. But I think that might also, like, you can capitalize on people that you're getting that have taken an action rather than just like waiting for them to come to you, which seems like counterintuitive.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. I was thinking as you were talking to about, I went and Gabby, my wife, and I we went to a few open houses over the past couple weekends in DC, and probably met like 15 different real estate agents at each of these open houses. And of the 15 that we met, there was one guy who, you have to fill out a form, you got to give them your information and all this stuff, right? And everyone sends, thank you so much, it was great to meet you at this open house, like, I'd love to represent you, and it's basically like the same template that everyone's copied and pasted. Real estate agent, like, marketing and higher ed marketing, there's a lot of parallels. But like, this one guy, he said at the visit, when we were at the open house, he was like, hey, by the way, like, are you guys working with an agent? And we're like, no, we're just kind of like browsing right now. And he said, well, okay, just 2 pro tips here. When you go to pick your agent, you want to look out for 2 things. 1, you want to make sure that they have access to off-market inventory. He said, if your agent doesn't talk to you about off-market inventory, they're essentially like not in the cool kid club, and they don't have access to like listings that might actually be available, but they're not on Zillow, for instance, right? And he said, and the second thing that you really want to pay attention to is, do these people have do they have the ability to or like will they like work with you over an extended period of time? Because we're just browsing. He's like, some agents won't work with you unless you're willing to buy in the next 30 days. Yeah. Other agents will work with you for as long as you are browsing. So he said, look for those 2 things. Well, then what he did in the post follow-up, he sent us an email. He created a curated list of homes based off of the home that we had seen, which by the way was selling that day, like it sold that day. Yeah. And he said, hey, here are 7 other homes that are all off market. We couldn't find them on Zillow, and that I think might match your preferences based off of the 5-minute conversation that we had with him. And literally that night, we sat down and we wrote him this long email. We thanked him and we said, hey, like, we'd like you to be our agent. Like, we don't know if we're going to be, we're looking maybe the next 6 months, but like, we'd love you to represent us. And it was because he like did the work of putting together this custom curated like selection of homes. No one else had done. Every single one of these other people sent us a follow-up email, right? With next steps and action items that we could take. Yeah. He was the only one that like proactively created this like portfolio for us to browse. Anyways, tangent. But to your point, those are the sorts of things that get noticed. And those are the sorts of things that if you are marketing to an audience that is actually has some buying intent, those things really, really do go a long way.
Yeah. And I think particularly now in higher ed too, when everybody is saying, we need more students, we need these things. Well, we don't have the time and resources to do that. Well, that's why you're not getting more students. It's the, where those students are going.
Snaps,
where people are investing the time and resources. You're probably, not that you're twiddling your thumbs at work.
No, but like, people work really hard.
What can you maybe not do in order to focus on these things, and like weighing like a cost benefit analysis of your time, and like how do you shift your time to focus more on low hanging fruit that maybe people aren't even aware exists, and like really making sure that, particularly like this time of year when it's like, all right, last second we're trying to get some students in the door, like don't just be calling the students who are almost submitting their app. Like spend some time on people who have just started and might need some help, or some people who have recently inquired knowing that the deadline is in a month and a half. And try and push different types of people through. And I think that personal touch could take them to the finish line, rather than just thinking like, I'm going to focus on these other people and then start planning next year's event strategy. Where in reality, again, this isn't always the case. In reality, that could wait 2 months. But like, you just want to feel on top of it, and you're trying to keep busy, or you're doing a bunch of other things that somebody else has asked you to do. That's the same person also putting pressure on you to put butts in seats. And it's like, look, let's have a realistic conversation here. I have this much time. I want to dedicate it to these things because I've seen this brings in the most amount of students. Why should I convince me why I should not do that? And I think those types of conversations will start leading more people to have those types of conversations that, again, put butts in seats, and not just like, we've always done it this way, and kind of classic higher ed excuses that get made when things aren't where people want to be.
Yeah, Jeremy Tiers talks a lot about who hosts Enrollify's Mission Admissions podcast. He always talks about how like in higher ed marketing and admissions, people are obsessed with like 301 and 401 strategies, and like most of them just need to do 101. Most of them just want to do the cooler, sexier, like different things because they think it's just going to be this silver bullet that helps, when like you legitimately can't do 301 and 401 shit until you've done a 101 and 201 shit.
I mean, it's like people who try and dive into video because they're like, we need video. It's like, you don't know what you're doing. You just gave some idiot 23-year-old kid point it over there and then turn it into a video. And it's like, that's not interesting. Like, what's the point of the video? Where's it going? Like, why are you doing that? And it's just like, well, we need video. And it's like these generalities that I think go nowhere, rather than maybe focusing on some of the things that you've also, and have seen work. You know that getting a student on campus into an event, that works. Spend more time doing that because that will lead to an increase. I feel like there's, particularly now with so many different platforms and mediums and all these other things, there's a tendency to just like, how do we jump to this next? And it's like, well, you never mastered any of them. Like,
Or even, and I can't remember if this was the last podcast or a couple conversations we had, or maybe it was a conversation we all just had offline. But like, I'm still waiting for the admissions counselor that like grows in credibility, goes viral or whatever, for like actually talking to a student, understanding what they want, and then saying, hey, by the way, we do this thing really, really well. Here are 4 other schools that also do this thing pretty well, that if they're not on your list, they should be. Like, admissions counselors are supposed to be counseling these prospective students, right? And guess what? Like, if the student isn't the right fit and they drop out a year later, was that 1 year in like tuition revenue really that helpful at the end of the day to the institution and or the student? No. Like, as any good marketer knows, like the best way to sell is to help, right? And if admissions counselors do a better job of that, like in the silly example I gave about the real estate agent, imagine going home after a recruitment event and getting an email from your admissions counselor saying, hey Dan, you mentioned you really liked these 3 things. I think we do this really well, maybe better than anyone else, but if these other 3 schools aren't on your radar, they also do this pretty well, and I have friends and colleagues that work there. I'd be happy to put you in touch with them. What sort of impression would you get, Dan, like based off of me? Like, what impression would you get about me if I delivered you an email like that, right? Like,
it's interesting. I mean, it sounds like our quote of the day that always is going to enrage everyone who's listening to this is just telling them to sell people to other places. But I feel like I feel like there's probably like a middle ground where, you could probably give good information without having to actually like, shoot them over to another place.
Refer,
But no, the pros and cons too of like, maybe it doesn't even need to be direct competitors, but like, hey, here's a school that, does a version of this. Like, don't give them number 1, number 2, and number 3. Give them 6, 7, 8. Hey, they do this also. They're not as good as you are. Here's somebody also not as good as us, but better than them. A little more. Again, the price is going to go up every time. Here's people that maybe they are a little better than us, but that's the Harvard. Like, you're probably not getting in. And that's okay. And if they do get in, like, they should go there. Like, that's smart. May you lose a couple people? Sure. Will you get more than you lose? Probably. And I think that's, again, the cost-benefit analysis of your time of like, all right, should I direct my energy here, and what will I get from that? And even going back to the stuff we chatted about before with like the infographics and the gated content, like if you have those things, that then allows you to follow up with those. It's not just lead gen. And I feel like a lot of the things that, you're thinking about a landing page, and why I kind of, going back to your earlier point of like the forms that are almost in the middle of a page, and you've read through some stuff and then you're like, oh, that's cool, I'll download that thing. Landing page, I think, often implies like digital ads to this thing, sending somebody right there in order to capture them as a lead, and that's its sole purpose, which many times it is. But how do you also leverage that same content that's on a landing page on your website for somebody scrolling through for an existing contact who you're trying to get to the point of application or app submit? And I think you again, splicing up that content, like there are every piece of content you have, you can use 4 or 5 different ways, and that's so much easier than creating 4 or 5 different pieces of content. But it's just, again, your time and where do you think you'll get the biggest bang for your buck, because hours are limited. Teams are, I feel like we've had a handful of conversations last week with people that it's just like, as you know, everyone's leaving higher ed, and like our team's shrinking, and we've had X amount of people quit, and it's not like they're going from 200 to 197. They're going from 8 people to 5 people, and it's like that's a dramatic drop off. So what can 5 people do for 40 hours a week to get the most butts in seats, and like go sit in your conference room on Monday morning at 9 a.m. and chat about that for an hour and see what comes out of it.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because maybe that is the helpful framework to help like wrap this conversation too, is like if you have the capability in-house to follow up with every lead that comes in the door in a meaningful, kind of unique way, then it's okay to have gated content that is a regurgitation of your program page with maybe 20% of additional like new content, because you are then going to do the work of like really following up with those people, sending them original like new, you know, links to other content that they might find helpful. If you don't have the ability to do that, right, and you don't have the capacity, or the people that are coming in off of that kind of content are just in like the thousands, and there's just no way that, even if you have a large team, you just can't follow up with that quantity of leads. Then what you need to do is you need to make that gated content so compelling and so unique and so genuinely helpful that it is presenting new information that isn't readily available via like the website or some other ungated asset, that it compels the user, the reader, to follow up.
Yeah.
Like that's the framework to think through these things. If you have a quality lead problem, do the latter.
Yeah.
If you just need quantity, do the former, right? And maybe that's at least one takeaway for people tuning in.
Yeah, interesting. I feel like I've learned quite a lot today.
Dan, you don't need college. You just need Zach and Shane.
A lot of marketing stuff that I didn't know before. Next episode, I'll be teaching Zach how to use Audacity. Well.
Close this out, Dan.
Cheers. Yes. I'd read on our favorite people at Doubletake who provide us things to put our beer in, and I forgot mine, obviously. So I don't know what else about Doubletake.
Doubletake is, if you need new swag, we're going to a new academic year. You need to update those lame brochures that you have. You need to update the hats that you have and little
koozies.
But what are the banners that everyone uses?
Pennants?
Pennants. Which, by the way, I don't know. I think pennants are like the lamest piece of swag, personally. Yeah. But anyways, if you need new pennants or you need any other piece of swag, talk to the folks at Doubletake. Tell them the guys at Enrollify sent you.
That was good. Honestly. I'm gonna do the Porky the Pig. That's all, folks.
All right, we good?